Welcome to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group. And to our viewers at home, we have a very special episode for you today, filled with information and always a lot of fun. Greg, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you. Kristen, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I love our time together in the studio, but I thought we'd start today off with maybe a fun fact. What do you think?
I love it.
Love it.
I love to Google and look for things that are new and different and interesting. And one of the facts that came up recently, there's a research by a sleep doctor actually, finds that 46% of U.S. workers admit to snoozing on the job at least a few times a year, while 1 in 3, get that, 1 in 3 nap every week at work. Nap every week. What?
Now, I don't know if it's ever happened to you before, but I have fallen asleep at work. I had a shot and it did something to my system and I fell asleep at my desk. This one time in years and years of working, yes.
Oh my gosh.
What about you? Have you ever fallen asleep?
I've actually fallen asleep in such a strange situation. We were actually watching TV, my husband and I was having a cup of tea, chamomile tea, usually in the evening. And I was sitting there on the couch holding it in my hand, and he looked over and my head was like this, and I was sound asleep, but I didn't drop the tea.
Oh my goodness.
And he's like,
subconsciously, you knew it was there, right?
Yeah, I somehow was holding it, but yet I was trying to sneak a nap in.
Now let's hear it,
goodness.
Greg. Have you ever fallen asleep at a random time?
Oh, me? Never.
No, I do. You take power naps.
I do.
There is a time where he fell asleep with an apple in his hand, and I have proof, and I'm going to post it on our stories. I'll probably post it on our company
Go ahead.
page.
No
he has
way.
an apple mid-bite, and he fell asleep.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
When I was in college, I worked for a company called Dietrich Industries in Hammond, Indiana.
Okay.
And I ran a machine that we cut pieces of steel, and I ran this machine. Well, I worked midnight shift. So from 11 at night till 7 in the morning. So during my lunch break, my car was parked right outside where my machine was. So I just went outside, got in my car, laid back because I was exhausted. And next thing I know, my foreman is beating on the side of my window, waking me up. I was asleep when I was supposed to be working. So that was a shocker. I never did that again. But yeah, sometimes you do fall asleep at the most inappropriate times.
Well, you know, one job you never want to sleep on is taxes. Will make it financial, right?
That is true.
That was a good one.
Especially in the spring. I know I'm learning from the best cheesy analogy jokester over here.
Trained you well.
Yeah.
I love that. And that brings us into another part of the show. Kristen, thank you for that excellent segue. A Chime banking app survey found that many Americans dread doing their taxes every year. So much so that 25% of respondents admitted that they would rather do homework than their taxes. Even 11% preferred taking the SAT over doing their taxes. But taxes are crucial when planning for your retirement.
Yeah, but I don't know about that. I don't think I would prefer homework over taxes because I handle our taxes for our business and personally with our CPA. Of course, I don't do them all myself, but I was in charge of homework with the boys over the years. If it was a fun project, Greg wanted to help. But if it was tedious homework, you know, I had to do it. And I told them.
Because you were much better at it.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So, is that why I have to handle our taxes too?
Yes. Now, would you rather spend time with me or do the taxes?
Or you could spend time together doing the taxes.
There we go.
Somehow that doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
But really, I mean, the boys, when they were younger, I'd say, oh, I don't want to do homework either because I had to, instead of doing something fun in the evening, help them with homework, right?
Absolutely.
But as the kids got older, I'm trying to teach them, you know, only thing that homework is good for is making sure you get it, right?
Yes.
And I think that can be tied a little bit with this and that, you know, the reason why people dread taxes so much, they look at it as homework. They say they'd rather do homework than do their taxes, but it's really like homework because they don't understand it enough. You know, it's kind of that thing where when you're worried about something, what do? You attack it head on?
Yes.
No. That's what you should do. But you don't. You stick your head in the sand and hope it goes away and procrastinate, right? And I think that's what happens with taxes, and it's because it's so complicated and you're worried about the things you might miss and you know, what if this and what if that, what if I do it wrong? And And there's so many things I have to enter that I didn't do throughout the year if you're a business owner, which a lot of small business owners deal with that. You know, that week-long period up until the deadline of the 15th where they're, you know, quickly putting all their receipts in from the entire year.
Yes.
And so I think that's where a lot of that anxiety and unwanting to do it comes from.
Well, think about our kids, especially, you know, you helping Jaden with school. I mean, we don't like what we don't understand or what we can't control.
That's true.
So lack of knowledge leads to a feeling of dread is what I came up with when I was thinking about this.
That is true.
Right? So how do we fix the feeling of dread? Applying knowledge. Where do we get the knowledge? Well, if you're watching the show right now, you're applying knowledge. You're trying to look for little tidbits of information to find in order to get that to sink in and figure out what questions to ask.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really the first step into becoming financially intelligent is working on that so that you don't have that feeling of dread anymore.
That's true. That's true.
We know we had a family come in recently to the office, and, you know, they hear me all the time pounding my fist about taxes. And so they came in and, you know, I said, you know, what brought you in to the office? And they said, well, we're concerned about taxes. And I looked at the couple and I said, well, tell me specifically, what about taxes is a major concern for you? Mm-hmm. And they looked at each other, then they looked at me and said, you know, we believe taxes could be one of the major roadblocks between what we've saved and reaching our goals.
Wow.
I thought that was profound.
That is very profound.
It really was, because that's exactly what it is. It's a roadblock.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's taxes, if it's market volatility and risk, if it's trying to figure out the right income plan, if it's healthcare issues. I've got two families right now where the one has a spouse with cancer, the other has a spouse with Parkinson's disease. Mm-hmm. And those are major, major roadblocks they're dealing with. But and why taxes, or why market volatility, or why all these things that we are concerned about that could, you know, affect us as we transition into retirement? It's really about getting to our goals.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because everything else is just noise, really. We saved all our life. We want to retire and be able to do all the things that are important to us, pay our bills and go on trips and spend time with our grandkids and family and do all these things and be confident in it. So the unknown is what we really boiled down here is we don't know where tax rates are going to go.
It's true.
And if tax rates go up, that means the income I have buys less because I had to pay more of it in tax.
That's right.
And if my income buys less, then I have to tap into more of my retirement savings in order to get the income I truly need. And if I have to do that, then I'm worried I might run out of money. And if I run out of money, I won't be able to do these things. And I had this couple come in. We did a plan for them and all those things. And they said, look, we want to buy a Class A diesel, travel the country. We want to be able to have enough income to live well and spoil the grandkids. And if you can help us do that, Greg, we're on board. Mm. And you know what? It's just a matter of planning. But it started with, what are my taxes going to look like?
Absolutely, 100%. You have to plan for your taxes. It's a great time for us to take our first commercial break.
Yes.
To our viewers at home, if you're sitting in the audience right now and you're asking yourself, am I on track for my retirement as far as taxes go? Well, you can get a free personalized tax map report from testmyretirement.com. That's right, testmyretirement.com. Call, find out where you stand, book a complimentary consultation with Greg and Kristen. Let them get to know what your true picture is for the retirement years and what your tax plan should be. You don't want to be surprised. You want to know, and the proper way to do that is with planning. Once again, that is testmyretirement.com, and you can get a personalized tax map report. We'll be right back momentarily.
Living a life is building a legacy of milestones, your first home, raising your children, becoming grandparents, and memories. From the first steps across the living room floor to the walk down the aisle, at every stage, your family is the most important part of your life. and you want to protect them, now and in the future. Which is why the decisions you make today are so important. You've worked hard to provide a better life for your loved ones. Now is the time to make sure that lasts. Build a legacy that will influence generations to come. Plan smart. Retire well with Legacy Retirement Group.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement Television. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, joined today by Greg and Kristen Taylor of Legacy Retirement Group, and we're talking all about tax planning today. In fact, I want to bring up this next topic. Many baby boomers are preparing to hand over decades of hard-earned money in what some are calling the Great Wealth Tax transfer, if you will. What is the most efficient way to approach handing down and inheriting money? Is that even a priority for your clients? Are you hearing people come in with those concerns?
Yes, so those are two similar things, but also very different. And recently, Jaden's been having this homework where he has to make these Venn diagrams. Do you remember Venn diagrams?
I don't.
Two circles, and you're marking on each one how two things are different, but then where the circles intersect is how they're the same.
Oh, wow.
And I think that we can kind of apply that here.
Is that kind of like you and me?
Are you smarter than a sixth grader?
We're different,
now
but
I
we're
see
the
why
same.
Kristen's helping with the homework.
It's funny you said that at the
Amazing.
same time as I was thinking of, are you smarter than a sixth grader?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I guess kind
Well, I don't
of.
know if
Yeah.
I am or not, but
do we intersect anywhere though?
I love it.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
I love it.
So for handing down money, a couple of the things I thought about when I was looking at this is considering a trust is something that you would want to think about and consider as you're thinking about handing down money to the next generation, kind of the legacy planning, if you will, there. How about utilizing gifting strategies? That's another thing that you should maybe be looking at and having on your notes as you're asking questions to an advisor as to how you could possibly efficiently hand down money. And then also creating a comprehensive estate plan. I think that's the biggest part of it. And that's not just considering a trust or thinking about gifting strategies. It's really everything wrapped up into one. And that would be on the handing down side. So on the inheriting side, it's a totally different game, right? You're looking at your whole life, maybe you've only accounted for X amount of dollars, and now all of a sudden you're getting this windfall that you didn't expect. And even if you did know that you would take some home, in most cases, families we work with don't understand the amount of money that the previous generation had. That's why they had so much, right? They
That's
did a good
true.
job of saving, and they were very tight-lipped about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
avoiding impulsive decisions, I think, is important on that side of it.
It is, and let me just say this. I would say the vast majority of families that are coming into our office anyway, their number one priority is to make sure they're okay. But, if it comes between their loved ones getting it or Uncle Sam,
Right.
which we've been finding out recently in the news, there's been lots of, money being spent in places maybe that isn't necessarily the best, right? So
Yeah.
government waste and things like that.
Absolutely.
So we want our dollars to make sure they're as efficient as they possibly can be, and we want to make sure that we are okay.
Right.
And so we don't want Uncle Sam to get it. We don't want the attorneys to get it. We don't want the court system to get it. We don't want it tied up in probate. We want to make sure that what we leave behind goes to those we love as efficiently as possible. But most importantly is making sure they're okay.
Well, and that was on the handing down side. I'm on the inherited side now.
Oh, you are?
You didn't let me finish. We're not intersecting properly here. Okay, I had two more, and then I'll let you talk.
Okay. Well, let me know when it's okay for me to talk.
Okay, and on the inheriting side, we want to review and update our goals. And I do think that one kind of can intersect, right? But if you're planning on...
Well, can I say something?
No, not yet.
You have to
So
wait.
if you're planning on receiving a certain amount in retirement based on what you've saved, but now you're inheriting dollars, you need to reevaluate things. You need to review what your goals are now and
Absolutely.
avoid making those impulsive decisions as you're doing it. Now I'm going to let you talk in a minute, but here's where they're intersect.
I know exactly
right?
where you were going with that.
Intersect. and I think you're going to want to talk a lot about this.
Okay.
So both of them require you to create a plan.
They do.
They both require that. They both require you to understand tax implications. And so it doesn't matter if you're receiving a large sum from an inheritance, or if you've just really done a good job and are concerned about handing the money down, you need to worry about having a plan and understanding tax implications, correct?
Yes, because the plan is not just a plan. You know, I hear all these things being offered out there, filters and roadmaps and this and that, and what does all that even mean? You know, we offer a portfolio x-ray sometimes. What does that even mean?
Exactly.
Right?
Let's talk about that.
Really, I've got money, I've saved, you know, my entire life. How can I use it to its best benefit? How can it benefit me and my spouse? How can it benefit my family? Okay? So it's really all about being efficient. You know, you can have a portfolio, and that portfolio can go high as high when the market's up and low as low when the market's down. We find that to be relatively inefficient. So we're looking for a more efficient way to invest, okay? That's part of the reason we do a portfolio x-ray to see, is there a more efficient way to invest? Then we look at our tax map we offer, because really it's not about, you know, how much tax am I going to owe per se, but what does that do to me trying to live my retirement? What does that do to my family when I'm gone?
Yes.
How does that impact our entire world, really? Because that's what it's all about, the grandkids, the kids, my wife and I. I mean, how does that work?
Absolutely.
So that's part of the plan, is to help you understand what that looks like. Then we get to income. How do I make sure that my income lasts as long as I do, and make sure that there's plenty for me to leave generationally as wealth to the next generation? That's all part of a plan that can make sense, Cynthia. And ultimately, when you have a plan that makes sense, first of all, you understand it.
It's true.
Second of all, it's typically in writing, so you can go back and review it. Thirdly, it meets your needs. And the most important thing, when it's all said and done, you have confidence.
So important, having peace of mind. And talking all about this, it's making me also think about Roth conversions. Who watching should take a time to see if a Roth conversion is good for them?
Anybody that saved at least $500,000 in a tax-deferred account, meaning an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, a deferred compensation plan, anyone that has at least $500,000 in that type of account should really look into, is it in my best interest to consider a Roth conversion strategy where I'm taking dollars that Uncle Sam's going to get their hands on every single year for the rest of my life? Or do I go ahead and pay off Uncle Sam within a reasonable tax rate and take charge of my money? So that's really what the plan's all about. That's really what getting down to the bottom of it is all about, understanding whether or not you would be better by disinheriting Uncle Sam.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. So again, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Not at all.
Very customized, very personalized, and you take time to really listen to what each person that's coming into the office has to say, because you design a plan that's going to fit their needs specifically.
Well, it has to, Cynthia, because there's too many boilerplate things out there. You know, very seldom does a one-size-fits-all ever fit anybody.
No, not even the Snuggies.
Exactly.
Remember those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because every family needs different amounts of income. Their dynamics totally different.
Different amount of savings.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're working with a family where the wife is 20 years younger than the husband, and their dynamics totally different. We have to plan basically for 2 generations worth of income. And that's a big deal.
It is. It is. Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, if you're sitting in the audience and you're asking yourself, wow, this planning seems overwhelming to me. What do I do? How do I navigate through this? Well, maybe you would be someone that would benefit from just having the free personalized tax map report, if you will. All you have to do is visit testmyretirement.com. That's testmyretirement.com. Put in some personal information. You're going to have a profile done that's going to tell you exactly what your tax implication could be and what you could save by taking advantage and proper planning today. Remember, when it's coming to retirement and you're thinking about tax planning, well, that's how you benefit the most. Planning ahead for your taxes. We're going to take a very short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back on Winning Retirement Television with Greg and Kristen Taylor.
Have you been wondering if a Roth conversion is a good idea? Do you feel a lack of confidence in Washington when it comes to future taxes during your retirement years? you should probably visit testmyretirement.com. It's Legacy Retirement Group's latest no-cost resource for soon-to-be and current retirees. TestMyRetirement.com is super simple to navigate. After clicking on Learn More, you'll fill in a few pieces of information, and within 30 seconds, you'll see a personalized analysis of your total potential taxes in retirement using your existing approach, compared to what's possible with some adjustments. Every situation is different, but if you don't want to be in debt to Uncle Sam, go to testmyretirement.com to find out if you can possibly reduce your future retirement obligations. Get started now at testmyretirement.com.
Welcome back to Winning Retirement TV with Greg and Kristen Taylor. My name is Cynthia DeFazio, and we're talking all about proper tax planning today and how that can alleviate some stress and worry that you may have in your retirement years. Obviously, I love this free online tool that you've put together called testmyretirement.com for people to better understand what their future tax obligations possibly could be. But I have to ask you a question. From everyone who's watching today, who would benefit the most from testmyretirement.com?
Well, everyone, really. I mean, and Greg may narrow that down more, but you talked at the top of the show a little bit about Googling things, and
yes.
I do that too. And sometimes I do it for definitions of words I already know, but I do it just to get a different perspective. And I did it recently for intelligence because I was thinking, what is financial intelligence anyway? What does that really mean? And I thought it was interesting because intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills, right? And it could be further described as the ability to overcome hard situations, right? Or
Absolutely.
Work through hard situations. And I think financial intelligence is the same thing. And one of the ways you start to get financially intelligent is using tools that are available to understand. It's not doing it yourself. I think so many people misunderstand that you need to be able to do everything yourself in order to be financially intelligent or independent. But it's more to acquire the knowledge and figure out how to apply those things that you've learned.
Sure.
And a really great way is this testmyretirement.com. So anyone can go online, go to the landing page of testmyretirement.com, click Learn More, and then as you saw in the commercial, if you were watching, you can just go in, enter a few pieces of information. Within minutes, it'll show you exactly what your tax liability could be if you don't do anything and what it potentially could be if you did make some changes. Now, it's not for everyone, and that's where, I think you apply this by saying, okay, what do I do with this now? How do I take this and turn it into something that's an efficient plan for my family and I?
Absolutely.
And that's where you meet with an advisor and say, okay, this is what it's looking like. What does that mean for me? What does that do for my overall nest egg if I start becoming more tax-free now based on my age and based on the other goals that I have for my retirement dollars? There's so much more than just the nuts and bolts of the different tests and calculators you can find online. You really have to apply it all with human knowledge and experience in order to get to a place where you have a winning retirement plan. No pun intended there, but truly.
Yes, that's the goal.
Yes, because as we saw, in the big game, interceptions can be a real problem, right?
True.
And that happens in the game of life. You don't want your plans to get intercepted by something. Just like in a big game, you don't want to lose control of what you have in your hand. You don't want someone else grabbing control over it. And so there's a couple that came in last year that had saved really, really well. They'd saved a little over $3 million, and about $2.2 million of it was in tax-deferred accounts, IRAs, 401ks. So we really dug in, and really the first appointment they had with us was all about taxes. The second appointment was going through the My Retirement Tax Bill, so
Okay.
The RMD report. And we went through that together and we really identified what was going on with that as far as the amount, because they're in the mid 60s. So by the time they were 73 and had a required minimum distribution, we're talking about over $100,000 a year in a required minimum distribution.
Wow.
A lot of money.
Wow.
Now this couple needed an additional close to $100,000 a year from their money. They had been taking it, but they had been taking it from their taxable account, not their tax deferred account. So in other words, they were depleting the taxable account. And by the way, that taxable account to the heirs gets a step up in basis. It goes tax free to them.
Wow.
The tax deferred account, they owe Uncle Sam on every dime they pull out. So one of my pieces of advice was, let's stop taking from the taxable account and let's start taking from the tax deferred account. So we set aside just over $1 million to generate that close to $100,000 they were going to need per year for income.
Okay.
Then we said on the other $1.2 million, $1.1 million, we are going to now start a Roth conversion strategy up to the top of the 24% bracket. So this became a point of, okay, we're going to take care of mom and dad. They're going to be able to do all the things they love doing. They won't have to change a bit about their lifestyle.
Right.
They'll be able to do everything that they enjoy doing with their family and for themselves. Now we've got a map going on to show them, okay, by the time we're done, everything else will go to your family tax-free.
Wow.
And by the way, they have access to it tax-free, not the taxable account, but the Roth that we're converting to, go to them tax-free. So all of a sudden now, it went from them begging their advisor every year to talk about taxes to now we actually have a plan.
That is incredible. And I am confident that people that are sitting in the viewing audience right now, they're asking themselves, should I put my information into this testmyretirement.com? They're going to have an overwhelming response just by listening to the two of you that it should be yes. Take that chance, put your information in, because I'm sure that's only one story, Greg, of what you and Kristen have seen recently when people take the time to do that.
Yes, because on the other side of that, I met a few months ago with a gentleman. He was 79 years old, and he'd saved about $2.5 million in his tax-deferred accounts. He's like, Greg, with my RMDs, I'm already at about $300,000 a year of income, but I'm concerned about future taxes. His wife had passed away, so he was single, and he's like, what should I do? And I said, well, the trouble is you're 79 years of age, and you've got such a large amount, and we only have about $80,000 worth of room before we get to the top of the 24% bracket. So I said, let's convert what we can, but we have to understand the rest is just going to be taxable.
Greg, thank you so much. Kristen, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, as you can see, proper tax planning is so critical for your financial future in retirement. Just go to testmyretirement.com, put your information in, and you'll receive a personalized profile of what your obligation could be and will be by making some changes. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed. We'll see you back 1 week from today. Take care now.